Of all our studies, history is best qualified to reward all research. And when you see that you got problems, all you have to do is examine the historic method used all over the world by others who had problems similar to yours. And once you see how they got theirs straight, then you know how you can get yours straight. Please. There's been a revolution, a black revolution going on in Africa. In Kenya, the Mau Mau were revolutionaries. They were the ones who made the word uhuru. They were the ones who brought it to the fore. The Mau Mau, they were revolutionaries. They believed in scorched earth. They knocked everything aside that got in their path. And their revolution also was based on land. A desire for land. In Algeria, the northern part of Africa, a revolution took place. The Algerians were revolutionists. They wanted land. France offered to let them be integrated into France. They told France to hell with France. They wanted some land, not some France. And they engaged in a bloody battle. So I cite these various revolutions, brothers and sisters, to show you, you don't have a peaceful revolution. You don't have a turn the other cheek revolution. There's no such thing as a non-violent revolution. Only kind of revolution that's non-violent is the Negro Revolution. The only revolution based on loving your enemy is the Negro Revolution. The only revolution in which the goal is a desegregated lunch counter, a desegregated theater, a desegregated park, and a desegregated public toilets. You can sit down next to white folks on the toilet. That's no revolution. Revolution is based on land. Land is the basis of all independence. Land is the basis of freedom, justice, and equality.
And his own story was as curious as his narrative. The tale of his life is the tale of a writer of incredible vision, an astute analyst and pundit, a lyricist compassionate and callous, a reckless hedonist and disaffected malcontent.
I spit that wonder rhymer me and my conglomerates shall remain anonymous, caught up in the finest Get that type of media coverage Obama get. Spit that Kurt Vonnegut. That blow your brain, Kurt Cobain, that Nirvana shit. Who gon' bring the game back? Who gon' spit that rainbow on the train tracks? That gold rope, that five-finger ring rap. Running with my same pack.
Land is an essential component of liberation. And the value of culture as an element of resistance to foreign domination lies in the fact that culture is the vigorous manifestation on the ideological or idealist plane of the physical and historical reality of the society that is dominated or to be dominated. Culture is simultaneously the fruit of a people's history and a determinant of history by the positive or negative influence which it exerts on the revolution of relationships between man and his environment, among men or groups of men within a society, as well as among different societies. An example of these essential components of resistance is found in the Kurdish Freedom Movement. According to Dilar Dirik in the Kurdish Women's Movement, History, Theory, and Practice, the Kurdish Freedom Movement is a multifront popular transborder and internationalist movement that ideologically and organizationally unites genocide survivors, guerrillas, prisoners, workers, politicians, refugees, intellectuals, artists, and youth who organize through local and regional bottom-up assemblies, communes, cooperatives, academies, and congresses. Since one major component of this movement is its armed struggle against NATO member Turkey, its structures are largely criminalized as terrorists by most Western countries. The most radical aspect of this meticulously organized movement is its self-understanding as a women's paradigm. One core tenet that permeates its anti-capitalist and anti-state ideology is that patriarchy is a 5,000-year-old system that can and must be abolished, not through reform, but in a women's revolution, and that the liberation of all society is impossible otherwise. In the perspective of the movement, in a patriarchal world, women's autonomous organization in all spheres of life, from knowledge production to armed self-defense, is a paradigmatic stance and precondition for true democracy. Mansour Tayfuri, in The Last Barricade of Revolution, The Kurdish Resistance in the Iranian Revolution of 1979, writes, "A revolution as a political event and a truth procedure is not in itself the truth, but it opens up a space towards the possibility of another world. Any revolution forces us to encounter what we never expected to emerge. That is why revolution always functions as a shock." What you will hear next is our segment titled Poetics of Revolution, Autonomy, Land, and Visions of Freedom, focusing on the long genealogy of the Kurdish Freedom Movement, specifically exploring the continuities of struggle by examining the Kurdish resistance in the Iranian Revolution of 1979, paying attention to culture, the meaning of autonomy, and the role of land in liberation. Listen intently, think critically, act accordingly. Okay, thank you for, taking the time to, have this conversation and think thoroughly through, a number of the concepts that we're trying to deal with today, specifically looking at how autonomy is conceptualized, how autonomy is fought for, the role of land, and the importance of culture and movements. And of course, we're here today. I'm talking with you about your important work, but also not only work, but this is your life. How the ideas that you have paid down, particularly in the 1979, movement that you write about, but also that, of course, that you have connections to, right? So I think that that's very important. So, again, thank you for taking the time to join us today, Mansour.
Thank you, James. I am so glad to be with you in this friendly conversation, and thanks a lot for your attention for this work and for the Kurdish movement, especially this part of this Kurdish movement. I will try to not explain, but to do something about directly or indirectly in this conversation about what happened in this time. And maybe it is for me better, it is more easy for me, or maybe the first question I must to have answer for that. Why this movement in the history? Why in the history till 1980, because maybe there are a continuation, something between all the moment. What permits a researcher to imagine a sort of paradigm, politic or repetition on something, some motive, political motive in this movement, named the movement occurred all over the world. For me, it is about the notion of event or événement as theorized or suggested by Alain Badiou. What is an event or événement? That's something that proposes to the subject to say to them or to show the subject itself that he have or he disposes something more than a power, more than the subject itself have imagined. That say, I am oppressed, I have not the power, there are no future, no liberation, no hope, but in a moment, by grace to the event, we see another horizon of the possible. Okay, what happened after in the core of Iranian revolution, before the shoot of Shah, and after that in Kurdish region named Kurdistan of Iran. For example, all is so simple. For example, we have the first thing, we have the committee, the small committee or small assembly of the neighborhood. In each neighborhood, we need the security, and we need to the division of the petrol, of the foreign, of the bread, of the rice, or the thing that we need a sort of organization where there are no one, where are not those the state administration, that we need some sort of organization that is clear, that is not something so strong. But with the time, this committee, this small assembly of the village, of the small district, of the neighborhood, became more and more near, to compose or to construct, for example, the assembly of the cities or assembly of the some village, in a region. And after that, to become a more big and vast organization that same the assembly of the Kurdish cities and Kurdish villages. You know, but by this meeting, by this conversation, by this exchange of idea, the people search or look for to establish something that is not a state, you know, that is just assembly. That say that is not a proclamation for the power, that is not a proclamation to, for example, to construct a state in the core of the state, you know, but the state could never accept something non-state in the core of the state. That is the logic of the state, you know. When you want to create or to propose or suggest something something non-static in the core of the state, it is more dangerous for the state be attacked by a stronger state, you know. It is about a conflict in the inherent in the core of the state. What was happened in this time, it is from this point of view, is important for me. But the form for me, it is not about the content of this organization. It is about the form that in which or in them this content, this new content realizes itself as a form of assembly, for example, you know. But after when the assembly was attacked by the power of Tehran, you know, by the guardian of the revolution, you know, and where the delegation of the state came to come to the Kurdish region to discuss with the assembly, with the representation of the people delegation, popular delegation, and the assembly. They have no interest to accept the assembly, okay? And the message is clear: we will attack you. You must to accept the Islamic Republic, the state, and the Imam, you know, in the center of hierarchy. You must to accept it. Okay, what we must to do, we have not the gun, you know, we have not the arm to resist. Okay, and another word, we don't want to do all the power to the state. We don't want to accept the state. Okay, we must to invent something more than, you know. We need another form of resistance. That say, I want to say, that is about the form we create in the core of resistance. Okay, the last form, or the basic form for me, that is the form of exodus. Something that say, we are here, you want to attack our city, okay, let's do it, but you will attack, or I will give you a city without the population, without the inhabitant, you know, with the people. You have nothing. We have no citizen in this city. Okay, we proposed the people, the assembly, for example, the Marijuana proposed to the people, we will go out, we will exodus, you know, we will make an exodus nearby the city, but we are not in the city, you know, and somehow for 2 weeks we have another sort of organization of political life, you know, that is a life, but it is in the same time, it is not a natural life, you know, it is not a bare life. That is a political choice and the creation of another form of collective life together. Another sort, if I could say, another sort of community, not society. You know, that is a difference. Okay, in this two weeks, you know, we need we need the water, we need the bridge, we need the medical service, we need all the things that we need in the everyday life. We need the bibliothèque, we need the library, we need all the things, we need the newspaper, we need the media, we need the connection between the people. We must cook, and we need all the things. We have nothing, in the Exodus, we came from the Egypt, We came from the Egypt in the core of the desert. We need our organization. Okay, what let's do it. Okay, we send the delegation to the other city. We call them by telephone. We need the help. Where are you? We need the help. And from another Kurdish village and cities, and from some other cities of Iran, the help came to this desert, to this exodus, and we create another sort of, for example, house, by the trees, nearby the trees. Okay, but for me, the thing interesting, for example, there are many things to speak about. For example, about the economy. You posed me, you asked me about the economy. What is the economy? Okay, for sure, there are a sort of economy, but that is in the real sense of economy, that say the art to administrate our house, not as capital. There are not capital, or somehow there are not the money, they are not the money. We need the money. That say all the people give the things that we have, to all the people. And there are some committee of vegetable, committee of meal, committee of water, committee of medical committee of education, committee of propaganda, committee of information, and committee of speaking with the state, with the delegation of the state. That's and we do it, each time. That is like a great creation, a possibility of creation, and we could create all that we need. Okay, they say to us, it is not possible to live with old capitalism, There is no issue, there is no exist or issue from the capitalism. But somehow this example showed us in the time that it is possible to live collectively and politically, or create a politic space out of the capitalist relationship, and out of the domination relationship between some sort of people. That is the only example maybe that we could speak about a people. This example show us that from the multiple, from the different people, from the different couch and social class, we could create another thing, another entity that could be called the people. And for me, from this event, we could speak about Kurdish people in the political signification, that's sure. Before this event, we have the Kurdish people. But what was the relationship or the rapport between this individual? I am Kurd, you are Kurd, but it is nothing collective or politic between us. And by this event, a people became a people, form itself or create itself as a political entity. That is what's interesting for me in this moment. And this moment showed us, all the Iranian people, another possibility to create, but that is something strange, and that could be something really dangerous, when we want to create another entity that is not a state, but in the core of the state, If we could, they could proclaim, for example, you are a state. Okay, you could be attacked so easily. But when you speak about another form and you think about another song, that could be more critical, critical for the state. That is why I chose, this movement. There's something so strange for me is that what that is or was when I wanted to interview the witness or the activists of this time. They say to me, but that is past. What you speak about, they have nothing to speak about, Only I could say, but for them, the importance of this movement or of this moment in the history was not clear. After my research, there are some another researcher or witness that have started to speak about their experience, but it is about that. If you want, I could, for example, I found a newspaper from this time, that is about a report published in 10 August in this time, 1979. The report. You wanted to I wrote it?
Well, absolutely. Go ahead and read that. And I just wanted to make sure that as our listeners and everybody's allowed this, you were explaining what led to this revolt to 1979 and this idea that an autonomous region, another structure was created by Kurdish people in this particular region. And this was a threat to the nation state, the overall structure, or the threat to the power of the particular state. So you're talking about how to create an autonomous region within, and what was that relationship, particularly in 1979. So I just wanted to make sure, because you mentioned capitalism, you mentioned that an economy was developed as an alternative to capitalism. Am I correct in pulling that out of what you were just saying?
To develop your idea, I will need to explain in some phrase about what happened, Shah, upon on legitimacy, legitimation by the historical legitimation, and, holy legitimation that say they come, I am chosen, I have chosen by the God, what happened in the core of Iranian revolution, for the Islamists, not for the another power, another group, but for the Islamists that say the why of Khomeini, the militant or the partisan of the why of Khomeini, they call themselves in this time, there was the intellectual, there was the anti-capitalist, there was especially anti-imperialist, they said, but Khomeini, for example, we can, for example, for a part of left and anti-amp, Khomeini was someone anti-imperialist that we must to support Khomeini, But for the Khomeini was the project. The project was to get supreme. That say, Shah, go, okay, it is finished, but we need another one in this place. It is about the place, it is the place. It's about a chair, It is not about for them something emancipatory or something revolutionary. I need this place. I want to govern. I want to rule, not in the name of history, but in the name of God and the hierarchy and the holiness that I have. I choose by the God. That say. The displacement for them, that was not the displacement between some sort of organization. No, for them, between me and another one. So very simple. That was very simplest, really. Okay, but in the idea, what is that? What is that about? About the relation of this governor or sovereignty or sovereign to the life in general, to all the property that exists in a territory, all belong to the Shah. okay, in all the theory, but now upon the religion all belong, the life, the subject, the corpse, all the what is in the territory belong to the imam. And there are a theory for that, there are a theory that say this theory comes back to the nations or the birth of the political economy in Islam, Where is this moment? There are a moment, James, in the time of Muhammad, the prophet, as the hagiograph, as the historian, I'm not sure that was Muhammad that said that, but we have a figure of Muhammad constructed by the militants and the theorician or jurisprudence of the power of the Khalifa, of the Imam, There are at last two Muhammad, okay? Someone from messianic tradition and someone that belongs to the jurisprudence. That's the Muhammad, that's the power, In a moment in the birth of Islam, for them, there are the property that is harem, that is sacred. We have not to appropriate it or proclaim the belonging of the nature or of the life to the sower, to the governor, to the imam, or to the shah, as you want to name it, But, for the Khomeini, there are a theory in the history, in the jurisprudence that legitimize to dominate all the things that is in a territory, Okay, that is a sort of capitalism that say all belong to the governor, or governor Bisha, or it could be imam or khalifa, That is the theory of Daesh, that is all the theory in the Muslim world, the sower proclaim the power and the life on this theory, in the name of this theory. Because in this time, in the birth of Islam, there are a verse of phrase of Quran that say, now we will legitimize for you, we will make licit or legitimate something that was haram or illegitimate for another people. And from this point, that is my power for you, God say, I choose you and I have a more power for you. Your power is that you have the right, you are lawful to appropriate the life and all the thing that was haram for in the tradition for another people, Upon us, this theory, the governor, the imam, have the right on the lives. Could you imagine? Or maybe I am not clear, maybe I need more phrase, more in English, it could be better for me, for example, to speak about that in French or unfortunately in French or in Kurdish, or in Farsi, in Persian. Okay, let's do it. What I wanted to say, that is what happened in this time, that is this place of governor, the place of Khomeini, this place of imam. The one who is in this place, have this right to make legitimate, to confiscate the life, to kill the life, and all the things. And that is in the name of this right, and by this right, that they govern. From this point of view, we have a sort of capitalism in Islam, political Islam politic, not cultural Islam. That is another thing, For example, what is cultural Islam? That is my model, For me, for that she said or she say in prayer, I wanted to hear, Mama, what is that, your religion? What you do in your prayer? What you say with someone invisible? What you do? Hey, my guy, let me do it. It is about do the good and don't do the bad, to be gentle, to be merciful for the people, to be respectful for another. That is all the thing, that is for me is culturally, to be Muslim culturally and to be Muslim politically. It is another thing, That's the problem is to be Muslim politically, let's say Islamist, is different from Muslim. And in some way, yes, I came from a Muslim family, not from an Islamist family. That is another thing, But in this story, you must to obey. That is about that. You must to obey the governor because he is sacred, he is holy. He came from the God, his legitimation, his powerful, came from the God. And you must to accept. The delegation, the home speaker of the delegation of Tehran said in the time to the delegation of the courts in Mariwan, in the same time, but if you are Muslim, you must to accept the Imam. That is a condition. If you don't accept the Imam and the power of Imam, you are not Muslim. You will be excluded from the community, from the Ummah, from the community Muslim. That is about that. To understand more clearly what happened in this part of world, you must to know this story. You must, and some who don't accept, the power or the legitimacy of the Imam could be excluded. He could be homosexual, could be homosexual. And homosexual in Islamic, in jurisprudence Islamic, that say haram, haram, something that came from the Hebrews or Jewish law, That is the case of Spinoza that have put in that was put in, could be homosexual. And homosexual in Islamic, in jurisprudence Islamic, that say haram, haram, something that came from the Hebrews or Jewish law, That is the case of Spinoza that have put in that was put in the haram, excluded. It is about that, that is the base in some sort of the economy and the relation and the rapport of the sower or governor with the life. Maybe I am so far from the topic, but I think to understand better or more clearly what happened in the Muslim world, we need to understand the place of governor, sovereign, and sovereignty, and his relationship with the economy and with the life, and the production of homosexual. Okay, in this time, what happened? What happened in the Kurdistan? A region administrated, by the assembly or the exodus, the place that formed or created by this exodus, that is in some sort, that is a no man's land, is another name for the haram. Haram region. Haram region is somewhere we could kill without to be pursued for the homicide. We became killable. We became killable. And who have the right to declare a region or a life killable? That is the governor, that is the imam, that is the caliph. that say the one who is in this place have the right to declare a life haram or licit. That say he have the right to make haram something that was licit or make licit something that was haram. For me, that is one of the possible formulation for what happened in this day. And okay, to resist to this sort of power, you need another thing. You need another thing. You need to speak or to act in the name of another thing, not in the name of God, not in the name of nation, not in the name of, you need another thing, another reference. That's for what this moment for me is we could say, fondateur moment. The Exodus, the Jewish, for example, the Jewish history starts from the Exodus from the Egypt, that say going out from the camp, from the state, and try or attempt to create another thing. That is for me in somehow what happened in this time for the Kurdish people. That is I am agreed. It's about the culture. It is about the land. It is about the interests of people. But the form, or by them, the forms by them, we looking for to realize it, or interest, or resist against the state and against the power is so interesting. In this time, for example, the anti-amps worked with Khomeini. They are the declaration of anti-amp and Stalinist that support the fatwa. Fatwa, do you know what is fatwa? The religious declaration, the fatwa of Khomeini against the Kurdish people and the Kurdish Christian, Kurdish region, There are the declaration of support letter from the Gauche anti-Stalinist, or somehow Trotskyist. That is about that. That Khomeini have the famous formulation about the Kurdish region in this time, in the Kurdistan. They say, Khomeini clearly, they say the problem in Kurdistan is the communism. The communism, and that was not right. There were the communists. Okay, the organization communists, but the form of this organization was not the party, or I don't know, party revolution, or the people, or the Khmer Reds. That is not about that. It's about the assembly. I want to have my assembly. I could be a part of state by assembly. I need in somehow my autonomy. That is what we could call autonomy in the Kurdish region in this time. But another thing interesting that happened in this time, the last day of the Exodus, there are the people of Sanandaj, the cultural and political capital of Kurds in Iran. The red for now, since this time till now, red really the capital and city. That was a march, by walk for 1 week from Sanandaj to Mariwan. And when the walk or the march of Sanandaj arrived nearby the Mariwan camps, we have some slogan in Kurdish. But between the Kurdish slogan, we have some slogan in Persian that say you could imagine Jewish and gentles, Jewish, non-Jewish, Jewish and that say Kurds, upon us this image, and the gentles, nations, the stranger, foreigner, I don't know, maybe. The slogan in Persian said, we will make all the Iran Kurdistan. We will transform all the Iran into Kurdistan. all the Iran must become Kurdistan. Okay, in this dialectic, when all the Iran became Kurdistan, there is no more about the Iran. Iran will be vanished, disparation. We have not more the Iran if all the Iran became Kurdistan. But in another word, from another pole of this dialectic, if all the Iran became Kurdistan, there is no more Kurdistan. That is a dialectic that could resolve the question of identity. When the people and the gentle became the same, to create another people. And that show us the people is a political construction. That is not about, that is something more important from the notion of the class for me. That is something more than that. That is something, for example, even now there are the people in Kurdish region, the writer or inner of all the world, they try to explain the Kurdish question just by class struggle. Yes, there are the class struggle. I am okay. I have not the problem with this notion. And somehow I am Marxian, okay, not Marxist, Marxian. But it is about another thing. How, by which politic we could solve in the same time the question of class and the question of identity, and avoid to the class struggle became itself an identity. That is for me about that, to be ready to become people in each moment. That is what happened again now since 1 week ago in Kurdistan and Iran. That is so strange. The slogan came from the Kurdish historical Kurdish struggle, the woman, the life, the liberty, translated itself in general in the in all the country in Iran, for the Arab people, for the Persian people, for the Kurdish people, translated itself, al-mar'a, al-hurriya, al-hayat, or Janjian Azadi in Kurdish, or for example, Zan Zendegi Azadi in the streets of Tehran, or another street, another city of Iran. That is the same dialect. Let's say by participating in a politic, we could, for second time or for the first time in the history of Iran, create another entity, create another thing, create really a people. But what we have for now, officially, that is not a people, that is not a nation, that is imposed by the power, by the force of, for example, by the force of administration, by the force of police. There are something more interesting, the young girl who have killed by the police, Iranian police, is a official name. Official name is Mahsa. We read in the Figaro, in the New York Times, in the BBC, or anywhere we have this time as Mahsa. But this young girl have another name. That is so strange. Have another name. Let's say the Kurdish people, the Kurdish individual that have a Kurdish name, they have in the same time an official name, because the Kurdish name are not the official name. Okay, that is like the Jewish, for example, porcelain have another name, Pasah, or Fasah, porcelain in the Jewish community, he have that say that is the secret relationship of the Jewish individual to the Abraham and to the promise that is more than flesh. There are two sort of relationship to the Abraham, by flesh, by body, by the blood, and by the promise. Okay. We have an official name for this young girl, that is Mahsa, but she had another name, Gina, that came from life, Jin in Kurdish, that's a life, Okay. In the stone of her tomb, that's wrote, someone wrote the Farist moment, the Farist whore. Dear Gina, you are alive, you are not died, you are not dead. But in this stone, we have the secret name, but she has killed by the official name. Okay, that say us something, about the life of this community, of these people named Kurd, They say us another thing, that say about two names, two education, two music, two form of life, two subjectivity, official and with the permission, the state and the police, and something that we have as culture and name and music and dance in our house. Okay, what is the means of translation or our transformation of this hidden tradition? That is so strange. Okay, we have not the school Greek, we have not the ancient literature that's Greek, we have not the religion as Kurd, we don't create, we have not the prophet, Okay, we are not the people, but we are a people by politic. Okay, what is the means of intergenerational means for transforming or translating the culture and the language? That is by the music, really, that is by the music. That say, in the Kurdish society, in the Kurdish politics, the most dominant discourse and the media is now and all the time was not the book, my romance, my article, blah, blah. No, that's not the speech. They exist. But if you want to do something really, you must to create, you must to now sing, you must to create a music, a melody. And you must to write, for example, a poem, And the poet and the singers have the role of the prophets and the martyrs in this community for these people. Öcalan, for example, Öcalan, Abdullah Öcalan, the great leader of Kurdish, the ancient Marxist, Leninist, after Maoist, after confederalism, democratic, blah, blah. But when he want to be a really relationship, to touch the people, he spoke about Dervish Abdo, For example, he gave a hero and a sinner and the lover, the sinner and the lover who sing for the people, I am like Dervish Abdo. And he wrote a poem for the first time in his life. This leader, he read a poem, he wrote a poem for who? For Darwish Abdi. That is, okay. It is about that. For example, I have two friend musicians. There are in Berlin and in Cologne, Excel. They create yesterday and today to music for Gina, for this young girl. Okay. That is what we could intervene. That is our intervention. The greatest media is the music and what and the literature. You know, in the literature, that is a poem. Poesy. It is about the culture, and I'm so sorry. I go from there, from this point to this point to this point. You know, but I don't know another form. I don't know another form of speech or speaking. You know, and it is better. You know, we speak as two friends. I'm so sorry. You have the parole, as the friends said. You could speak. Sorry.
No, this was absolutely wonderful. Because one of the things which you really showed, you went through, you know, the history of the 1979 revolt, and you situated that in a longer history, in a bigger history of, you know, this moment of revolt, of resistance, and a longer history of the Kurdish resistance itself. And then you also, you know, really showed exactly what we're trying to do is understand the continuities of resistance. And one of the things that we find when you're looking at, you know, African and African descendant or indigenous movements, there are continuities there. And some of the continuities that you spoke about is even this idea of, you know, two names, right? You have the sacred name, and then you have the accepted official name that the state gives. But the sacred name is the name that carries on, you know, the genealogy of the people, the history of the people. And you're remembering, even in the context of what just happened with the young woman, you're still carrying on, you know, and placing that in this longer Kurdish resistance, this Kurdish movement. And so with that being said, I mean, you know, there was so much that you laid out, particularly this idea of autonomy, this idea of land being important in the context of creating one's identity, but at the same time, being able to control one's particular place in the world. At the same time, it's in relation to this all-powerful being, this state entity that has two power, right? There's an official administrative power, but then there's a sacred power that's given to it through the interpretation of Islam.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was important because, again, one of the continuities that was running through my mind was this notion of maroonage in African history, where you had Africans who were enslaved and they escaped, you know, the chains of chattel slavery and created these autonomous regions that were a threat to the structure of a plantation state, of the plantation economy. So we see these continuities consistently, you know, through a people who are culturally sound and stable, and also attempting to defend their humanity by using the different categories of humanity, culture, you know, interpretations, relationships to land, how we redescribe or redistribute power amongst our own people becomes very important as well. So anything you can respond to anything that I just said, or add to anything I just said as well.
No. I had another idea about the land and the relationship between the land, but after that I will have some question. Okay, James, you know, I remember in our village, or another village in our city, in our region, you know, there are some source of water, some forests, some lands that are in some sort sacred, you know, but the term used in the Kurdish language that's not sacred, you know. My mother said or says for now that this land or this tree or this forest or this source of water, you know, is sacred. Okay, and you don't have to appropriate it. It belongs to no one, but it belongs to the, she said, this, for example, this water have a khawan. Okay, khawan, let's say in Kurdish, khawan, that's the property, this owner, have an owner. I have this pen. I am the khawan of this pen. Okay, but we call the God by the same name, Khuda. You know, I am the God of this. Okay, that is so strange. This source of water I could drink. Okay, but I have not to appropriate it to myself. This forest is here. I have not the right to touch it. Sometimes this source of water is in the center of my land, my private land, but it is not mine. This forest is in the center of my land, but it's not mine. Okay, that was belonged to the someone that we don't know, the Khawan, that say God from the name of the God who came from the same source, but that is not the God. You know, Khawan is not Khuda. You know, there are two things different. That is not God. That is Khawan, someone or some power that we don't know, and we have not the right to touch it. We could drink. You could not to block it, for example, you know, or interdict this source to the another one, you know. That is not for confiscation. That is so strange, but that is not haram, you know. We could go in this forest, we could dance in this forest, but we have not the right to cut the tree in this forest, or we have not to cultivate in this part of land, for example. Okay, but what do the governor, the sower, you know, for the state, all this land or source property in the territory that in the tradition had the Khawan that was untouchable, is legitimate to touch for the governor, for the sower. That is the base of economic politic of sovereignty in this type of state. For the people, there are something out of propriety, you know, out of that, and we respect that. But for the power, for the state, all belong to the state. Okay, that is an example of, you know, how the economy in this power, in this sort of power work, and in the popular tradition works. There are this difference. By this difference, that is for me so strange. For example, maybe by this sort of interdiction, we could resolve in some sort, some question about the ecology in our time. That's saying, in the name of the power, in the name of the state, we have the right, we are lawful to touch what that we want, what we desire, without interdiction, without sacred, without nothing. We have the right now to touch all the things in the name of the state, in the name of the God, in the name. That is about that. Okay, but as you mentioned, James, what we need, it is a question of continuity, and to find the point in common between these ingenious people, Black people, you know, Chiapas, Kurdish people in some sort, you know, or all the oppressed people, you know, how we could find, we could relate, we could find the contact between this struggle, between these people, between this tradition. That is what we need, and that is what could be another sort, really for me. I'm honest in this point. I'm frank, that is another sort of solidarity international or another sort of internationalism. Why not? Why not? For example, what happened in the Marijuana in this time that say unity of the peasant, for me, came from the film created, directed by Elia Kazan in the time, Viva Zapata. When I compare the forms, the discourse, the barb, the sort of organization in the Marijuana in this time, and I compare it with what happened in the Viva Zapata, Elia Kazan, there are so many things in common, and why not? And I found a testimony. Testimony said one time one of the friends of the representation of the delegation of Kurdish people in Mariwan, they told I with Fuad, we was in Tehran in the crane of cinema that was Viva Zapata, and we found some money to buy 2 tickets, to go to see this film. And that is the time, that is in the same years that the organization of Komala, the revolutionary organization of repressive of Kurdistan has created. That is a coincidence, that is something in common. Or I have another témoignage, I have another testimony that say we was influenced by Elia Kazan, by the hippies movement, in United States, by M.S. Césaire, by Frantz Fanon, we have this type of element in common. That's for what we must work together. I'm so sorry, I speak beaucoup.
No, no, that was important. And also it was important to really highlight, what we're trying to do is really identify the points of continuity. And this goes into a lot of the work that I do in critical consciousness formation, is that it's one thing to be conscious, it's another thing to be critically conscious. And in order to become critically conscious, we have to find continuities globally in resistance movement. And the Kurdish resistance movement has so many similarities, particularly as you really laid out today, with the resistance that people Africa and people of African descent have had, but also other indigenous groups. And so in order to really build what you were mentioning, this notion of a more substantive solidarity, is one thing to just say, okay, I know, this particular history, I know how it connects, but it's also, the idea is what we're going to do about it.
Exactly.
Because, folk are still, people are still being impacted by these power relations. We just saw this we see this happening right now with the young woman who was killed not so long ago. We see this happening with police violence, particularly here in the United States, but also across other places. So, this conversation and this particular initial conversation, because again, there's also the notion of translation and then transliteration about how do we speak to each other in a way that is, connective, substantive. So, again, as we kind of close out, I want to honor your time. And did you have any more responses or any more that you would like to share based upon the continuities that you kind of see that we can do moving forward? Are there some points of continuity that, people can see right now that they can do other than just kind of looking at the news or looking at, just kind of what we call it, looking from afar? How can we really understand, connecting things that we could connect on at this particular moment right now?
You mentioned the continuity in the Kurdish movement or in the contact with another movement. In the Kurdish movement, you want to say? You know, for me, it is about James. Why I could see or proclaim that is something like a metaphor. You know, in a long roman or in a long poem, you know, we have the motif or the metaphor that came back, that realizes or manifests itself in each time in another form, in another name, in another, you know, image. That is for me of it, the continuity of a movement could be something like that. That is not the same thing that came back all the time, but it is about the inner dialectic of a movement that say, while it is resisting to the oppressor, the resisting subject change itself and the oppressor in the same time. That say, in a dialectical process, as the subject of resistance, I develop myself, my subjectivity, my form. I create another thing. I develop my language, my vocabulary, my imagination, my motive. That is something about that. You know, for me, it is about that. That's it. But somehow, you know, that is something that came back with the same word, with the same form, but not in the same place or by the same person. You know, for example, in the ceremony of this young girl in the first morning, you know, in the net I found two videos to chant, to sing, you know, that belong to the time of the Exodus 40 years ago. But we sing now by another subject, you know, by another person in another place for another opportunity, for another question, in another ceremony, you know. And what was strange for me, partly most of the people that was there that I speak about it, some hundred people, you know, some thousand people in this ceremony, maybe the half of the people know already this scene revolutionary, this hymn, the revolutionary hymn in Kurdish that is interdict, that is not lawful, you know, where they learned this hymn, revolutionary Kurdish, you know, that allow me to imagine in somehow a you know, continuity. I will give you another example. For example, about the continuity, about the slogan, the woman, life, liberty, you know, or freedom. Okay, this slogan was invented in Paris. In the ceremony of the terror. Three militant courts from the PKK movement killed in Paris by the police torch, you know, by an agent of police torch in 9 years ago, you know. There was a slogan, Jean Azadi, okay. That's it. But in circles, in Iran, you know, in the same time, in this morning, we see that this slogan came back to become generally the slogan of all the people in Iran. That show us or lets us to imagine in some sort of continuity and a inner dialectic in this movement. From this point of view, this slogan no belong more to the PKK. Till this day, till this morning, okay, that was the slogan of PKK, but it is not more the slogan of PKK. You know, what a movement chose and took and take from the reality, from the language, from the music, from all the things.
Your point is very important, and is what you're getting at is that the continuities evolve based upon, you know, the moment within which ignites a response or a reaction to some particular event. And I think that that's very important. So when you're talking about this dialectic and what can be done, is that we have to be clear about what is happening within the movement. At the same time, how does that connect, you know, historically, but also how do we see a different future? Am I getting that? You know, this dialectic part in the movement is going to determine, you know, what happens next.
In the future, what
Yeah, the opportunities for change to come. So the dialectic part, the part of the dialectic is what is happening internally. How is past informing the present, and then the possibilities for the future? Because you're talking about this event, this recent violent act of you know, killing the young lady, but you're also talking about that this also has some historical significance, but the continuities may not look exactly the same as they were in the past.
Okay, let me come back to the subject of sample. Yesterday we spoke about that. You know, I will call my people whom that was not my people. I will call beloved one who was not beloved. You know, okay. That is a question between. It is about, you know, in this continuity, in this dialectic of movement, that shown us in the time of the Exodus, that we could, it is possible to create another entity, another body, political body between the people and the Gentiles, you know, between these two parts. That is what came back since this week, you know, 1 week ago. That is what came back. That is just, it is about a chance, you know, to seize, to seize, you know, that is the chance to seize. That is, let me go back to Benjamin, you know, the outrage in the night of the world, in the night of the history. That is some moment that brusquely that show us there are something there. We could work on it. We could seize this part, this something that was not clear, that was invisible, you know. They show us there is something to seize, you know, this movement, and that this moment could be the small door from which the Messi came, you know. It is about that. It is about the chance, you know. There are not the guarantee, but with each movement there are the new subject that create itself. And when we became the subject of a movement in the emancipatory movement, in an emancipatory politic, it is impossible to go to the yesterday, you know. Something changed basically in the subject when we participate in something revolutionary, when someone understand or you know, taste, you know, the pleasure or the jouissance of the liberty, maybe just for 1 hour, he or she became another one. became another one. What will happen, I have not idea, but I'm sure all these people that have participated in this moment are already changed. They are the subject of something new, especially me, I know there was something ignored by myself. That was the question of gender inequality as the essential question. Since yesterday or 1 week, I was someone that spoke about the class struggle. I am now for this idea, but there are something more. We must to understand what happened, what's about gender inequality, because, for example, as upon the research of one of my friends, my Kurdish friend, the minority has treated in the history as women. Okay, as woman, minority and woman is the same thing. Okay, in this sort of power, that say, by criticize this discourse, we could save or liber or something the minority too. And also, that is some idea. I think there is a new subject, that is the time of creation, a new subject, politics. And we will see, and I am some sort sure something will happen, basically, this time. But it's because the first time that we received something like the question of gender inequality in general. We spoke about that, but we had not the movement in the name of gender inequality. That is so new.
Honestly, thank you. That is actually a perfect way to put a pin in the conversation. we're not concluding.
We must write about that together as group, as two person. I don't know, me, you and Arab. We could, and maybe we must to write about this thing, because I know, for example, Grace to the Toni Morrison. I could imagine myself, really, to be frank, honestly, as a Tess in the beloved Roman, the one that must to kill her children because they have not the food to give, and because she preferred that her children not be a slave. I understand very well. And in my skin, in my body, I was sometimes autonomous.
Thank you for listening to Terrains of Struggle, Continuities and Freedom Dreams, a mini radio documentary that was designed to explore possibilities, radical possibilities, and how they become material, how they be brought to life through resistance, rooted in the assertion of a people's collective humanity, and how this process is transmitted in time and across space. More importantly, we were interested in what can they tell us about ourselves, each other, and our relationship with land as a fundamental component of freedom. What are the continuities and conceptualization of autonomy, and the role of culture in struggle? We hoped something was shared that will inspire you to think critically and act accordingly, to build a global commons of struggle where we move beyond symbolic solidarity to material exchange. Until we meet again, we leave you with the words of Marcus Garvey.
Look for me in a world when I was calm. Look for you how great. I shall come back with countless millions of black men and women who have died in America, those who have died in the West Indies, and those who have died in Africa to aid you in the fight for liberty, freedom, and life.
In struggle, peace and light.
Streets every night. Yeah, we looking for a way out the problem. Every time I see police, heavy cries. These are scary times. Screaming out beef, you took a life. Another one's gone, a lost soul. That's why we're marching in the streets every night. These are scary times. These are scary times.
Your life, you be running every night. You just gotta hold on, brother. Lose yourself. Don't let them make you lose yourself.